And welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the Dynasty Force podcast. Back with you on this Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. Back with more on the NFL rookie draft. A breakdown this week, maybe a little delayed compared to where everyone else was doing it, but I'll explain my reasoning for our scheduling in a little bit. But to start, I got to introduce my friends and my colleagues. Let's start with the man with the plan, the man who Trey already knows. The man who I don't know. I was
No,
trying
that's
to
only
find a
because
way
I
to
never
rhyme.
have a.
That's perfect. I was trying to find a way to rhyme brain and train, and I just couldn't do it. So I'm just gonna give up, and I'm gonna
that would have been a hard pause moment.
I'm gonna just introduce Billy. How's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty well, man. Pretty excited. I'm glad we waited a little bit to do this episode because now I've done a couple of rookie drafts, kind of see how waivers have gone. So I got a lot of information for this episode today, more than I have had these last couple of weeks. You know, it's UFC pay-per-view week, so pretty busy week. Got graduation tomorrow morning, finally getting in. Fuck Holy Family for fucking making me wait the whole entire extra year. But, it comes with the grind. It comes with the grind. Just had a crazy fucking soccer sweat before we went live, so hence why we're going out a little bit later.
Right.
What are you drinking?
It's Arizona tea.
Yeah, Arizona iced tea. Rob already knows what's up. True style.
Yeah, that tall, like 24-ounce can for $1. Can't beat it. Trey, since you don't know enough about Arizona tea, I want to hear what you do know about.
Actually, it's funny about tea. I smoked last night and was coughing up my lung, and I grabbed the nearest thing to me and expected it to be Mountain Dew. Took a big swig of it. It was sweet tea. Spit it back into the cup. Almost threw up. But
is that because you weren't expecting it, or because you're not a tea fan?
I hate tea, and I wasn't expecting it, so it was both.
Wow.
It was a bad combination, needless to say. But I'm excited for the rookie draft. We all have a different way we approach the rookie draft, so it's going to be pretty interesting to talk about it. I've had a lot of picks in the rookie drafts that we've done so far, and it's been pretty interesting to see how the board falls. So I'm excited.
Right. Yeah. Trey's talking about our Fantasy Forecast Listener League, where we're not. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's not going my way. But Billy, shout out Shane, who is not in the Listener League, but he won't feel bad to make fun of me for past mistakes that have happened in the Listener League. But regardless, Billy, welcome into the Listener League. Took us long enough to get one of the main hosts of the Dynasty Force pod.
Caused a lot of drama in night one, man. A lot of people didn't like the trade.
Really?
I just couldn't go longer than 2 hours having those two people preloaded onto my team. I know for the league settings, Jarvis Landry's probably, a guy that you probably want for your bench. But, Flair Hare came in for the save. Probably going to cut the two dudes that I got back in the trade. Should have got a draft pick out of it or something. But we just couldn't go longer than 2 more hours having Kareem Hunt and Jarvis Landry preloaded on the team. It's pretty weird, though, that I say that because I have, Baker Mayfield in literally every one of my leagues that I've actually drafted in.
I remember the commitment to him last year.
He came through late in the season. If you
was not bad
to the playoffs, he definitely helped you out, but that wasn't enough to put you over.
Yeah. So we're going to be drafting in the Listener League soon, which is another reason why we kind of thought it would be cool to start with the mock draft episode, not only to also show the difference that the draft can have from one week to another, but also we know from experience ourselves, and a lot of our listeners are probably the same way, but people are so excited to get into that rookie draft that I wouldn't be surprised if people had their rookie draft done before we even had that episode out last week, and we had it within a week after the draft. So the fact is, like, people were so quick with it. We wanted to be quick with our mock draft result as well. So this will be kind of the in-depth breakdown where, like, we're doing this to really assess the damage of the NFL draft and the things that have changed from there. And I don't know. I'm excited for this episode, though. Speaking of listener league, I wanna start out with this. This will be for any intense listener, and we'll give priority to people who are not in the listener league. But Trey and I, mainly I, but Trey is also involved here. So we are hoping to start a 4-team Dynasty league. I know, only four, it's crazy. But we're going to have a ton of starting roster spots. We're going to have a ton of bench spots. We're going to have so many of those starting roster spots. It's going to be like a basic 12-man league in how many people are actually starting. But it's only going to be for 4 teams. We did the calculations before the draft started, or before this episode started, and we figured out 24 starting spots for each team, each of the 4 teams. Bill, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I got a quick question. If you guys are doing a 4-team league, I think it would be a dope idea to have like co-owners for like each team.
I think it would too, but
maybe
it's up to the owner, I would say.
Yeah, I always leave it up to the owner as well. I always just feel like I remember back in the day when we used to do the FFPC leagues before COVID.
Yeah, man.
Like having a co-owner, I feel like just changes your whole entire like outlook at fantasy because
the rational.
Like, I was a 0 RB type of guy. You were like an RB heavy guy. So like when you like blend everything together, I always feel like it makes interesting teams more than like you would regularly see if that person drafted by themselves.
Nothing
Hey, I have
will.
someone who would totally be down to co-own my team. If Bill wants to step into co-own Robert's team.
Yeah, man. Nothing will top the year Billy and I did FFPC together. Number one, I think like first week we had to drop 350 of our 1,000 fab for Buck Allen. that was we were basically fucked into that. And
glad that's J.K. Dobbins now.
And I know in the draft we were like coming up on the 2nd round or 3rd round pick or something like that, and I was like begging. And Bill mentioned he tends to be 0 RB. I was begging Billy to take Kareem Hunt or agree with me to take Kareem Hunt. This was 2017, I think, because it was their rookie season. Spencer Ware was like the lead back, but then he had just gone down with a torn ACL. So like everyone knew it was about to be nothing but Kareem Hunt. And I was like preaching to Billy. I was like, bro, this man is going to be an absolute workhorse on one of the best offenses. And we're getting him in like at such a value in this 2nd or 3rd round. And Billy finally bought in, which was crazy. And then he went like 1 pick right before us. So that was the hardest I've ever been sniped in the past. But that happens when you co-own teams. You get so excited that you're actually able to talk your co-owner into something when you know their feelings on certain things. And then all of a sudden, maybe it doesn't work out that way. But that said, Billy also mentioned a good idea. So either way, if you are listening to this, you're interested in being in a more intense Dynasty league that will be very fun. I guarantee it's going to be a ton of fun because of all the roster spots that will be available to you. Feel free to hit us up on Twitter at FantasyForceFB from me, Trey at FF Superflex Guru if you want, or just hit up the show at Dynasty Force Pod, and we can definitely work it out. It's happening either way. So if you're down, come on in. Welcome in.
The water's warm.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be fun. I guarantee it's gonna be. It's gonna be like, I feel like people hearing it are gonna be like, damn, 24 starting roster spots. But Trey even mentioned it too. Um, think of like how many rounds that would actually go through if you like divide it. 24 times 4 is 96, which would be divided by 12 would be 8, which is basically saying that this would be 8 rounds of a normal startup. So, like, think of all the great players you can get in 8 rounds. Like, the 8th round, you're still getting quality players. So, like, the fact that you can still play those players in this format, it's just really, it's going to be intense, but it's definitely going to be high scoring and really fun. So, again, not saying you have to, but I'd love to hear your interest from you, and feel free to reach out to us, or not related to the league, but you could just reach out to Billy in general. I'll give his little Twitter a shout out at Getting Bills, and yeah, I think that's it for the orders of business for today. The NFL schedule is dropping tonight. How do you boys feel about that?
Raiders are getting boned already, just like last year. I've freaking traveling across the country
All the
15
leaks.
times. And this season, I feel
Oh,
like
the Raiders, yeah.
And I feel like this season we're just, Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, they gave you the respect of playing on Thanksgiving, though, man. That game is going to be fucking flames. Did you see that they're adding a club to the end zone?
Yeah, I did see that. It's going to be wild. I'm going to Vegas this summer. I'm kind of upset I'm not going to be going in the fall, so I can kind of enjoy what the stadium's going to be like. But I don't know. We got a lot of national television games, so hopefully Gruden makes himself look like an ass and gets himself fired. I'm just done. I don't have any faith. I don't know.
I feel it's sad, but I feel.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, Falcons, Eagles, week 1.
Uh-oh. Is it going to be a bet?
I told you I'm not an Eagles.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, Bill had to tap out of being an Eagles fan. I remember that now. I'll let you suffer, because the Sixers hoodie tells us enough. So you can say you're not an Eagles fan.
I'm a Sixers fan, just not an Eagles fan anymore. After the shenanigans that we pulled over this off season, I'm cool.
Who are you a fan of?
Who am I not a fan of?
Or who are you a fan of?
Yeah, who are you a fan of now? Just sitting the year out or what?
Currently a free agent, so we're just looking for a team. I don't know if I want to be the guy to go. I mean, by nature, I'm a Raiders fan just because of Gruden. I think that shit's funny how he got a 10-year contract, but I would never say like we're throwing on some Raiders gear. Come
on, man. The silver and black's the way to go.
No, I feel that though. There was a point that I wanted to make. I can't remember at the moment, but no. I know the point I wanted to make. One of my friends was a Cowboy fan for like the entire time that I knew him, and then like I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago, he made the switch to being an Eagles fan because everyone around here is an Eagles fan. He was like, "Nah, bro, it's just more fun to cheer for the same team that everyone else around here is cheering for." And I was like, all right, I mean, that makes sense. I can see that. And he is an actual like Eagles fan now, but I don't get how you just make that mental switch. Like I couldn't just start being a Saints fan. I say that wearing the Alvin Kamara jersey shirt, but I couldn't just start being a Saints fan out of nowhere.
To be a good fantasy owner, you can't be biased to your own team.
Yeah, I feel that.
I keep on coming out, but I said you can't be biased towards your own team if you're a good fantasy owner.
Right. No, definitely. I
But
agree.
no, that's kind of the same as like my situation. I'm a Raiders fan living in Kansas. I'm surrounded by Chiefs fans. I could not imagine just like switching. My brother was a Ravens fan growing up, but then as soon as Mahomes got good, he switched over to being a Chiefs fan, and I didn't understand. I'm like, dude, you've been like you did the Ray Lewis dance when they won the Super Bowl. You've always been a Ravens fan, but he flipped the switch, and I thought it was so weird. But I guess some people can just do that.
Yeah. I don't know. Couldn't be me.
Nope.
All right. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. NFL draft breakdown. We are going to be talking about the fantasy impact of landing spots, and let's kick it off right at the top. Number 1 overall, Trevor Lawrence for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know how much I would really want to talk about Trevor Lawrence here because I feel as though we all knew that Trevor Lawrence was going to be a Jaguar, and we all kind of planned for it already. You know, I do remember us talking a little bit about Trevor Lawrence being a Jaguar pre-draft. So, anything else you want to add in here? Maybe the impact on receiving options like Marvin Jones or DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, or even Tim Tebow, newly signed. Tebow time, Tebow mania. Let's bring it back. Bill, you want to kick it off here?
Yeah, I think the more interesting question about this team is more of what are you doing with the wide receiver situation? Because I think there's a legit case to be made that DJ Chark isn't as valuable as he once was before.
I feel.
Wait until I stop cutting.
You're good.
I feel
not.
like Marvin Jones may cut into his. I feel like Marvin Jones may cut into his touchdown shares, and that's what kind of made DJ Chark valuable. And then on the other hand, if you're trying to acquire Laviska Shenault, the person that owns Laviska Shenault thinks that he's still in college and his nickname is Honcho because you're not going to get rid of him. I seen earlier today that I seen one of my league mates say, I try to get the Shenault owner to get off of him, and he wanted Tyreek Hill in the first. I said, dude, that's fucking ridiculous. Laviska Shenault isn't the next coming of Justin Jefferson or anything like that. So I think this team is a pretty interesting team. I try to get some shares of I think his name is Colin Johnson, but that kind of ultimately got turned down with the Marvin Jones signing. And then if you're also a James Robinson owner, we talked about it on this exact podcast, the time the sell was back then because you're not getting shit now. I think Travis Etienne, arguably, dynasty-wise, could be ranked number 1 over Najee Harris. Call me crazy. I think ADP-wise, you have to take Najee Harris. But landing spot-wise, I like that spot a lot more than Najee Harris to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I feel like let Big Ben be out or Big Ben retire or let Big Ben have a Drew Brees type season from last year. You might be looking at yourself and Najee Harris sitting on your team like, man, what the fuck? I'm in a rebuild.
Right. So we'll hit Etienne. I like how you hit Etienne in the same sentence because he also went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, I believe 25th overall. I'm just checking. Yeah, 25th for Etienne. So on the point of Trevor Lawrence, to answer your question as far as is DJ Chark as valuable as we kind of think he is, because Marvin Jones signing, you know, he's a very established wide receiver. He's been there as a very reliable fantasy option. I think he's an insane value, but I do think that the team knows and believes that DJ Chark is the best wide receiver potential. He has the greatest potential to be an alpha on the roster. And I think that they're going to play it like that. I mean, I can't say for sure because DJ Chark really has had only one good season. He's a former second-round pick, but that was done by the last regime. And this is a whole new mindset that's coming in the team that was like, you know what? James Robinson was fantastic last year, but we don't give a fuck. We're going to spend a first-round pick on Travis Etienne still. So I don't really know the mindset. It does make it very I I don't know. It makes me nervous to invest in a guy like DJ Chark because you don't know how it's going to play out between him, Marvin Jones, and Laviska Shenault. It could very well be that DJ Chark is the odd man out in that offense. I'm not projecting that, but that could happen. And at that point, if you're sitting here buying DJ Chark with the thought of, oh, Trevor Lawrence is coming in, he's going to be fantastic now, you could very well get bit. So I don't know. Depending what you could get for DJ Chark, I don't think that's a bad proposition to sell him at this point if people are very interested. And then Trey, I also wanted to mention we were in a Dynasty league where the other, I don't know if it was after the draft, I know for sure, but it was a straight up trade of Jerry Jeudy and Laviska Shenault. I know neither of us were involved, but still a trade of Laviska Shenault. And I feel like Jerry Jeudy is a solid. I would rather have Jeudy in that instance, but I think that's a solid swap. What do you think, Trey?
I would say that was with my friend Jacob Teets. He actually messaged me about what he should do, and I said I would rather have Jeudy over Shenault. But looking at their wide receivers that the Jaguars have, I'd rather have Shenault out of all of those, because if you look at what Urban Meyer did at Ohio State or anywhere even, it was a lot of screen game, and that's what Shenault did a lot in college. That's what they used him a lot last year. So I feel like he's probably going to be the most used. Will he have the most touchdowns? Probably not. Probably Chark or Jones will have the most touchdowns, but I think Shenault will have the most receptions. We'll see what he can do with that. And then talking about Lawrence, something I always have been harping on recently is looking at what Vegas has. Vegas has him having a pretty good season. They have him has his over at 4,150 yards, over at 26.5 touchdowns, and over at 14.5 interceptions. So Vegas thinks that T-Law is going to have a pretty decent year. So if you're looking at that, that looks at pretty back-end QB1 numbers, high-end QB2, if you're projecting those stats across fantasy football. So for a rookie quarterback, I am 100% fine with that production, but it'll be interesting to see if he gets those numbers.
Yeah. And on the topic of ETN, I mentioned quickly, the coaching staff, new regime was basically willing to say, who cares about James Robinson and what he did last season? It's ETN time. I feel like you're either on the side of this is going to be ETN's backfield and James Robinson is now worthless, or you're on the side of this is going to be like a 50-50 timeshare and they just wanted to get more playmakers into this offense and they thought that ETN would be that guy. So I don't know, but the way I'm looking at it, I know what James Robinson did last season, but the fact is that I don't believe that if Jacksonville really valued what James Robinson did last season, I don't believe they would have spent a first-round pick on Travis Etienne. I feel like they would have spent a second or third-round pick on, like if they really wanted a running back and felt fine with James Robinson but wanted to get him a good compliment, then they would spend like a second or third round pick on a running back who really can complement.
Carter in the fourth, but
they exactly
get ET in the first.
Yeah,
right.
Can I say another thing before you leave off the Jacksonville Jaguars? From
sure.
Perspective, yeah, I like this team, but from a real life perspective, Urban Meyer's fucking this team up like all the way around, dude. How in the hell? Why would you draft Travis Etienne after you just drafted a quarterback? Why wouldn't you draft the offensive lineman, anybody on the defense? There, like Trey said, there's so much value at the running back position. You could have got Kenneth Gainwell in the 5th round if you wanted to, and he probably could service the same exact role. I don't know what's up with Urban Meyer, but, man, I think if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, long-term wise, bad things are coming for that team because that team is going to be dog shit for the next couple of years. And I really feel like they're – Urban Meyer's just jacking up that team. Like we alluded to earlier, he signed Tim Tebow at the tight end position. For what, bro? What are you doing? If you wanted Trevor Lawrence to have a quarterback to learn from or something like that, just sign him as a coach. You don't have to waste a roster spot at the tight end position. I could just go on for like a whole entire podcast in itself about how Urban Meyer's jacking up this Jaguars team.
Interesting. I do believe, though, I do agree with you, Billy, that, and I like the examples that you made. Obviously, they don't know that Michael Carter is going to be there in the 4th round, that Kenny Gainwell is going to be there in the 5th, but I feel like you would have felt confident enough that at least one of those guys would have been there in the 3rd when you're picking with the first pick in the 3rd round. So I personally think that if they had invested in the defense or the offensive line with that first round pick, that doing that and then drafting running back in the 3rd would have been so much better for their team as a whole than drafting ETN in the 1st. But hey, man, I'm not the GM, and I'll let that fall up to the GM and Urban Meyer and whatever they want to do. That said,
Vegas has their win total at 6.5. I feel like that's too high. I bet they're
that said, Trey, are you buying the idea of James Robinson still being fantasy relevant?
I didn't buy him last year. I feel like he'd been a flash in the pan just because he had no one else to compete with. Who's going to take his touches? Chris Thompson? Nah.
Yeah.
I think now that he has Travis Etienne in that backfield, like you said, I really think that they didn't really respect what he put up last year, because if you deep dive into the stats, I saw a thread about it, his efficiency just was not there as a runner. He just got the vast amount of carries that gave him the opportunity to be as productive as what he was. But no, I think Travis Etienne is going to really take over there.
Bill, do you agree?
I think that he'll take over, but I think it's just going to be an annoying situation the first year, and maybe you can get Travis Etienne at a value halfway through the season. I feel like right now,
like JT last season.
Yeah, like you could trade. Let the person that drafted Etienne, because you probably got him at a value around the 8th and 9th pick, so it's probably a pretty good team overall. Let that team start off the season like 0-4. We always talk about like teams that start off 0-3, 0-4. They're probably going to be more trade happy or trade triggery because they think they need to make improvements on their team. So make sure you put that note in there. Trade for Travis Etienne after the 4th week for the owner that starts off his team shitty. And if it doesn't happen like that, if he's on a good team, then you might just have to just pass on it and just try to get him in a startup.
I feel that. All right. On from the Jacksonville Jaguars, let's move to the number 2 overall pick. It's Zach Wilson for the New York Jets. Since we're kind of talking about them in bunches, we'll cover all of the Jets' really fantasy relevant picks. The Jets also traded up in the 1st round because they had Seattle's pick, and then they moved up to 14 to get a guard that they like a lot, which I like as a move for them. And then 2nd round, the Jets drafted Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss in a pick that I really liked a lot. And then I don't believe they had a 3rd round pick. I believe that's the pick they traded to move up. But then in the 4th round, they selected Michael Carter, running back out of North Carolina. So there's a lot to talk about with the New York Jets. A lot of differences. I think I'll start here. I think the piece that I'm most excited about from this draft is Elijah Moore. Just looking at them individually, I like it. Obviously, in a draft, I'd be taking Zach Wilson first in a super flex league because quarterbacks are so much more valuable. But I think the long term, I think it'll be a little bit before Zach Wilson is really good for your team for fantasy football. Whereas I think Elijah Moore, this team, the New York Jets, they have depth at the wide receiver position now, which is something they couldn't say they had before. They have Corey Davis. They have I know they signed someone else besides Elijah Moore. They have Keelan Cole. They added. They have Jamison Crowder from last year, and I know there's someone else there too that I'm just forgetting at the moment. So the fact is the Jets team now is a lot deep. Denzel Mims, obviously, second round pick last year. This team is very deep at the wide receiver position, but there is an opportunity here for a wide receiver to step up into that alpha role. And I think if anyone's going to take that role, it's going to be Elijah Moore. I liked him a lot on tape. He didn't make my top 5 because it was deep at the wide receiver position this year, but he was just outside of it. And after our wide receiver episode, he was someone that I started to like more as I looked into the numbers a little bit deeper heading into the draft too. So I really like Elijah Moore. I think he's one of my favorite values in drafts when you're getting him early in the second. And I think the more interesting thing here is Michael Carter, though. What is your actual opinion on Michael Carter? Can he handle the workload? Will he step in and be the lead back? There's an opportunity there, too, because this backfield right now, Tevin Coleman, LaMichael Pirine, Michael Carter, it's really them 3. So who would be the one to step up? Trey, who do you believe in Michael Carter, the opportunity for him?
I wouldn't have before this season if you told me he landed on the Jets, but the fact that they do have LaFleur there as their OC, and he's bringing a lot of the 49ers zone read scheme, and I like Michael Carter in that. I don't like Tevin Coleman. We saw what he was like in the 49ers with that offense. I don't like that. So it's basically between Carter and Pirine. And with a new coaching staff, I feel like they're going to give Carter the chance over him. And I have seen him go as late as early third. I would be willing to spend a early to mid second on Michael Carter because I feel like after there's Harris, Etienne, and Williams, I have Michael Carter there right after him. So
very interesting. Bill, what are your thoughts on the Jets running back situation? I'll label it as.
I think the Jets are one of the winners of the draft. I know you asked me about the running backs, but I'll touch on the receivers real quick. I feel like the signing of them drafting Elijah Moore was basically giving them the cut papers for Jameson Crowder. If you look at the player profile for Elijah Moore, he's definitely going to fit in as a slot receiver. And then with him going through these rookie training camps with Zach Wilson, they're probably going to develop together. So they'll probably have a built-in chemistry going into the season. So I feel like that's a uptick for Elijah Moore, a ding for Denzel Mims with the Corey Davis signing. And then when you go to the running back position, like I said earlier, man, they're one of the winners of the draft because they got Michael Carter. Michael Carter and Elijah Moore are both values that you can get in the back end of the first, beginning of the seconds in rookie drafts right now. And I think I'm a little bit less hesitant to get Elijah Moore. Maybe I would take the gamble shot at Trey Sermon from San Francisco. I think they're ranked around the same exact range for me. But overall, I do like the signing. I think there's some vacated opportunities here in this backfield or just workload to be handled just in general. I mean, Frank Gore was back here getting workloads and was fantasy relevant for a couple of weeks and stuff like that for the deep leaguers. So I feel like if that's the case, yeah, I'm buying Michael Carter. But overall, I feel like his redraft price is going to be a little bit too high. I think his only value is in Dynasty. I feel like once we get into August and stuff like that, you're going to start seeing people start writing up about Michael Carter.
Interesting. Trey, is there anything you want to mention as the Superflex guru on Zach Wilson since I didn't touch on him too much?
No, I think he's going to easily be, besides Lawrence, obviously, he's going to be the rookie to start. Fields, we don't know if he's going to start, but we all know Zach Wilson's going to be starting week 1. So if you're choosing between him or Lance or Fields and you need that week 1 starter, I would lean Wilson. But did you guys see Zach Wilson's mom going all over social media?
No.
Her TikTok's wild. Just search her on TikTok.
I don't know if I want to now.
No, I'm pretty interested to hear that. It must be some pretty funny stuff. She's really hot, one of the two, so I'm about it.
Both.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on from the Jets. At the moment, we'll move into the San Francisco 49ers. Bill mentioned that they selected Trey Sermon in the 3rd round. They also selected Trey Lance with the 3rd pick, gave up a lot to get him too. I don't believe they really made any other fantasy relevant picks. They took a guard in the second round, which is good. You like to see them invest in the offensive line, help that grow, and that is a very good offensive line in front of these running back or Trey Lance and Trey Sermon, I should say. These
You mean
Treys.
Troy Lance and Troy Sermon?
No, you're the only Troy here.
Okay.
Troy Tyndall, at FF Superflex Guru on Twitter. No, I don't know. It was a good ish draft. They also drafted Elijah Mitchell. I should not gloss over that and skip that fact. Billy's boy, I'm sure, Elijah Mitchell going in the 6th round or 5th round. I could check that, but I'm pretty sure it's one of those two for the 49ers. So, Bill, let me head over to you first. We'll talk about the running backs, and you can mention whatever you want to mention about Lance. But what are your thoughts on the running back core now, which also has Raheem Mostert, JaMychal Hasty, and Jeff Wilson at the moment?
It's pretty interesting because when we first talked about this team, I mean, not about this team, just about this player, Trey Sermon, we were saying kind of a little bit lower on him than consensus, but it's all really landing spot depending at the RB position. And when I look at him, I call me crazy, but player comparison, not even because they're from the 49ers also as well, kind of around like that same exact era when they first came out. I really think he reminds me a lot of like what DeMarco Murray did in that outside zone scheme for the 49ers. And I feel like there's opportunity there. The team didn't re-sign McKinnon. McKinnon's on the Chiefs now. So, Shanahan uses multiple backs. I think Jeff Wilson is a good player. He's pretty cheap to acquire. But I think the additions of Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell have definitely upgraded this team in general at the running back position. And I think Trey Sermon's going to be overdrafted in rookie drafts. And I do agree with the overdraft of him. I haven't been able to get him on any other teams because I'm drafting Elijah Moore in the same exact round, or I'm taking a flyer shot on Terrace Marshall from Carolina. But overall, though, I really like what this team did in the draft. I'm a big fan of the quarterback that they got also as well, Trey Lance. I drafted him myself in my biggest dynasty league, my home league. I had the 102 and the 103, and I drafted Trey Lance, and then at the 103, I drafted Najee Harris. So I'm pretty high on this team in general. I feel like Shanahan, like when we get a new coach inside a system, it takes them like 4 to 5 years to really overhaul the roster of their guys. I feel like now we're seeing his guys really lead the way for the 49ers.
Right.
Sink or swim for the 49ers this year.
And
Definitely.
They got the Super Bowl 2 years ago with not his guys, which is hilarious.
It's crazy.
So Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, that situation. Jimmy Garoppolo currently still a 49er. 49ers have said that they're not, I don't know, rushing, I guess, to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. They said that they want him on the team this year. Apparently, Jimmy was the first person to text Trey Lance after he was taken by the 49ers. So I don't know what to really believe about the quarterback situation and who will be the starter. I think most likely that Jimmy G is going to play probably about 4 to 8 weeks, somewhere in that range, probably closer to 4 to 6, if that was my guess. And he'll be benched at that point for Trey Lance. That would be my guess, because I feel like Jimmy is a good, not great quarterback, and I think the 49ers will be looking for that upside that a rushing quarterback like Trey Lance with a cannon arm will offer.
You're definitely giving him the benefit of the doubt. Remember, you said the same exact thing about Tyrod last year. I feel like in the new era that we live in with social media and the way how easily accessible, it may seem like a stretch, but man, I'm telling you, these fans are pushing out their owners to start their rookie quarterbacks, and they're getting thrown in earlier and earlier year by year.
Well, Tyrod, I'll take a little not a victory lap, but I'll take a reprieve from that one because the Chargers
Coach-
team
Coach
doctors
literally tried to kill them.
they stabbed him in the lung, literally.
murder.
So yes, he physically couldn't go, and then Herbert came in and just lit the world on fire. So that was different. As far as Trey Lance, you really do get the sense that the team doesn't want to rush it. I think they've said optimally they'll just do a Patrick Mahomes situation where he doesn't play his entire first year, and then in the second year he's their future. But I don't know about that. I'm not giving that much of a benefit of a doubt, and I probably wouldn't be investing in Jimmy G too heavily. Trey, anything else you want to mention with this team?
I like that Billy got him at 102. That's why I value him right after T-Law. I like Lance over Fields and Zach Wilson, and obviously over Mac Jones. The other thing I gotta say is imagine if they drafted Mac Jones, how terrible their draft class would look like. Like, in my opinion, the running back position is the only one that they didn't need just because Shanahan has proven that he can do it with bums that he signed off the bench. So imagine if they drafted 2 running backs and then drafted Mac Jones, how pissed off that fan base would be. But they saved it with Trey Lance, and no one else really cared what they did after that pick. So I like it. I like Trey Lance. I think the Jimmy G situation, they're probably going to trade Jimmy G the same way they got him mid-season. I don't see Jimmy G being on that roster at the end of the season, but I see Jimmy G starting probably, like you said, 4 to 6 games, or probably till he gets hurt and then forces, Trey Lance's hand. But I would look to get Jimmy G. If you have Trey Lance, make sure you have Jimmy G, and vice versa, just to be safe.
Right. Let's move on here. Oh God, I'm too far down. It's funny because literally all of the first 6 picks in the draft were all fantasy related. So I'm just moving down the list here. The Atlanta Falcons with the 4th overall pick, and I got to vent here for a second.
Uh-oh.
The Atlanta Falcons had the 4th pick in this 4th or 5th. I have to bet that one of those 2 picks. In the second round. Actually, no, they had the 3rd pick in the second round and had Javonte Williams on the board, and then instead decided to trade out of the pick, trade it to the Denver Broncos, who were trading up to take Javonte Williams with that pick.
Is that really what happened?
What do you mean?
Yeah, that's really what happened.
Has that been reported?
Yeah. No. It actually happened though. Like, they had the 3rd pick in the round, they traded out to the Broncos. The Broncos traded up to take Javonte Williams.
Can I say this real quick? Broncos, you trade up to draft Javonte Williams? That is I think they had the worst draft just from the aspect of you trade up to not draft Justin Fields, who gets drafted a pick ahead, like a pick later. What are you doing as a franchise?
Listen.
I agree.
You trade up to get a running back, bro? This isn't fantasy football.
Yeah.
Do they still have Royce Freeman too?
Yes. And Melvin Gordon is there at least for this year. So their plan is that this year it's going to be a good mix between Javonte and Melvin Gordon, and next year it'll be Javonte's backfield. But no, the Broncos, as you mentioned, they had the 9th pick, and they passed on Justin Fields, who went 2 picks later to the Chicago Bears. But they and it's not a question of like, do they need a quarterback or not? They know Drew Lock is not the answer, and I if they don't know that, then I don't know who's going to tell them, because it's fairly obvious if you watch their tape last year. They traded for Teddy Bridgewater, okay, but do you really think Teddy is your franchise quarterback? To me, he's a stopgap. So why would you okay, Patrick Surtain, they take at 9. He's a good cornerback. I agree with that. But why would you not take the chance on a quarterback like Justin Fields, who has the potential to be great something that your franchise has really never had outside of John Elway and Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning, you only had, 4 years of it? So, I don't know, man. But then they decide, oh yeah, let's trade up, let's get a running back, and let's fuck over the Falcons. No, I understand why the Falcons did it, because they didn't see running back as a huge need, and they traded back and they got a safety, which I believe we cut 3 safeties this offseason, and 2 of them were our starting safeties. So I understand as a team function why we did it, but that's not going to make me any happier. I wanted Javonte Williams to be a Falcon. I was speaking it into existence. I believe even the week before on the podcast, I was saying he will be a Falcon, and then had the opportunity, but instead we trade out of the pick, and it doesn't come to fruition. But with the 4th pick, the Atlanta Falcons did make a fantasy-related pick, taking Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida, highest selected tight end in NFL history of the NFL draft. The word unicorn has never been used as much as it is now with Kyle Pitts, at least in the NFL terms. And I mean, as a Falcons fan, I like the move because I don't know, like just the prospect of surrounding the team with weapons. Pitts is not going to be fantastic in year 1. No tight end ever is. So I think when you come to terms with that and you see that he's still going to be used, but long term, you look at the combination between him and Calvin Ridley, I like this offense in the long term. I like the prospects that can offer even with an older Matt Ryan. Julio Jones, who knows if he'll be a Falcon this upcoming season. There's a ton of trade rumors surrounding him now, especially after the Kyle Pitts selection. So let me start by saying, if there's anyone out there who's in a Dynasty league with a Calvin Ridley owner, and that Calvin Ridley owner is down on Calvin Ridley because they're like, oh, they're kind of out of the loop with the Julio situation, and they see that Kyle Pitts was taken, and they're like, okay, that's less volume for Calvin Ridley, and he's going to be a little worse for wear. I would be sending as many trade offers for Calvin Ridley as possible, because he's going to be the wide receiver 1 on that team very shortly, and he is built for that role as well. And Matt Ryan, I do believe Matt Ryan has 2 or 3 more good years as a quarterback. So for those reasons, I would be looking to invest in the Falcons offense. And we know about Kyle Pitts being, God's greatest tight end ever created. Trey, anything else you want to mention with Pitts or any pieces of the Falcons offense? Mike Davis, how about the dub that Mike Davis truthers are having right now?
Yeah, Mike Davis definitely was one of the biggest gainers, if you want to say. I don't know what the proper term is, but his value gained the most probably after the rookie draft ended, because there's really nobody else there. Didn't you guys cut Ito Smith and Brian Hill too?
I think Brian Hill was just a free agent, but we cut Ito Smith. So yes,
yeah, I was surprised by that. But yeah, so
I'm not, because he's garbage.
Yeah. But yeah, I do like Mike Davis's role there. For Kyle Pitts, it's always been said don't draft him early and expect a lot. I don't really know what to expect from Kyle Pitts this season, because he's totally different from TJ Hawkinson. He's a lot more like Noah Fant, but he's so much bigger, stronger, faster than Noah Fant too. And Noah Fant was pretty serviceable his first year. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does be a top 5 tight end, because the touchdowns are there. Julio doesn't catch the touchdowns. It's all Calvin Ridley. And maybe Matt
It's
Ryan
not hard to be a top 5 tight end either.
Yeah, but I think I was going to say also maybe he gets double-digit touchdowns, because I feel like they're going to try to use him. But especially with the 17 games, I feel like double-digit touchdowns for him is kind of a lot more attainable than what it was in the previous years. But I like Kyle Pitts as a tight end 1 this year.
Bill, I'm not necessarily down on Pitts the talent, but down on the idea of investing heavily into Kyle Pitts.
I mean, I like Kyle Pitts, don't get me wrong. is this would I rather draft Kyle Pitts or Travis Etienne? And that's more the question that you run yourself into. But I feel like Trey said the biggest winner of the draft besides Myles Gaskin was Mike Davis. I actually traded for Mike Davis in my home league that I just got done talking to you about. I did the savvy vet fucking move. Traded back into the 4th round, grabbed my boy Javion Hawkins, undrafted free agent that just got signed to the Atlanta Falcons. You just alluded to Ito Smith, Brian Hill, all got cut. Javion Hawkins should have got drafted. He might be that James Robinson of this upcoming year if Mike Davis doesn't pan out. So I doubled down on that, traded away my beloved Harden. We had to leave him. We traded away Hollywood Brown, a future 2nd round pick, and unloaded Zach Ertz and a bunch of other no names that I were about to cut anyway. And we got back Mike Davis in a 3rd round pick. And boy, I was dancing on the fucking computer. The fact that I think every owner right now trade out for Mike Davis because the person that owns him might not know that the Falcons have the most vacated running back touches in the whole entire league. Mike Davis is going to smash this year. He's going to smash so hard this year that you're going to be able to win your championship, or if not, come close to it, and be able to trade him away back for like a late 1st round pick or early 2nd round pick, because he's going to be everything that we thought Todd Gurley could be and more. And then I think Javion Hawkins was the steal of the undrafted free agents, man. He is number 1 on my list, man. I know you guys didn't draft a running back, but man, you talk about a clear, wide open window. Just close your eyes and think. Week 5 waiver wire reports are going to say Mike Davis out, Javion Hawkins, number 1 rookie signing. I mean, waiver wire signing.
Right.
Going to be unloading their fat budget on him and everything. We literally talked about the same exact situation about James Robinson coming in the last year, about how he was an undrafted free agent. You should pick him up before the season starts because you're going to close your eyes. It's going to be week 3 or 4, and you're going to see all the waiver wire columns with that backup running back at the top. And I just love this offense for fantasy. Real life wise, they fucked up. Another team that should have got a quarterback. You're never going to get that high again to draft a quarterback. Why wouldn't you just draft a quarterback?
Well,
But
we will because we didn't take a quarterback.
That's a discussion for another day, for like a over-under wins total type of podcast. But for fantasy, wheels up. I thought I was going to have to trade Matt Ryan away for like Derek Carr or something to try to get something back for him. But I've been getting more trade inquiries about Matt Ryan more than any other person on my team right now.
Yeah, I feel that. And pre-draft, I felt like I overpaid a bit in trading for Matt Ryan in a league where I just gave up the 107. And now I feel as though I'm happy with that. For what I needed Matt Ryan to be, I needed him to be like a stable sort of force. And if Julio's on the roster, then I'm very proud of that.
You think Julio's going to be on a roster? I think there's an actual option that, like, call me crazy. I think there is a possible chance Julio just doesn't want to play for them anymore.
I don't think it's that. I really think it's the contract situation where it's just it's too fucked. Like, if you looked at that contract, I just don't just trust me. It's fucked.
Whole lot of money.
It is the guaranteed money. I can pull it up really quick, but the breakdown on it is just insane, and it makes more sense to trade him than to keep him for a team that had the 4th overall pick, and he's 32 years old. Julio Jones this year has a base salary of $15 million and has a $23 million cap hit, and cutting or trading would incur a $40 million dead cap hit. So, obviously, trading him would entail some like reworking of that cap. But this is really the reason why a lot of people don't expect him to be a Falcon, because $23 million for a cap hit is just insane. So
Yeah,
I
that
don't
would
know.
be absurd.
We'll have to see how it works out. I hope he's a Falcon because I want him to be a Falcon for life. But
I mean,
we'll
if you're
see.
a Falcons fan, I feel like you just have a personal love for Julio just for everything that
Of
he's done
course.
for the franchise. He's like the Chad Ochocinco of the Falcons. He just kind of
Yeah.
like you close your eyes, you think of the Falcons, you think of Julio. I mean, back in the day, it used to be Roddy White, but
Right.
Julio's
Julio's overtaken that.
Yeah.
Let's end it out here with the 5th pick, and then we'll also talk about our favorite picks, I guess, besides that, because we're running low on time here. But we'll go with Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase selected with the 5th pick. The Bengals had some other draft or selections in this draft. They tried to beef up the trenches with those picks. So and they also invest in depth at the running back position. So that was needed as well. So really the Bengals, really all there is to speak about is Jamar Chase going 5th, taking over Penei Sewell, who is really the name to be talked about at the tackle position for them. And I feel like that was Joe Burrow influenced. He's saying, hey, I want to play with my boy. I want him, he's the best wide receiver in the class, this and that. They didn't really need wide receiver when they had T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. But, I mean, this changes things for them. Let me ask, because I feel like Jamar Chase, Billy, I know you like him. Trey, I'm pretty positive he was your number 1 wide receiver on the board. You're nodding, so yes. We love Jamar Chase, so I think we all sit here and say, okay, he's the unquestioned number 1 wide receiver on that offense. His ceiling is not hurt because he's that number 1, because of the connection with Joe Burrow and because of his talent and all this. But what about T. Higgins? What about Tyler Boyd? An interesting question that I've seen on Twitter is, who does this hurt more between T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd? Trey, who do you think this hurts more between the two?
I think it would hurt because Jamar Chase, his skill set is closer, in my opinion, to Tyler Boyd because T. Higgins he's big dude. He's 6'4", 200 something pounds. Like he's a big wide receiver. Like Jamar Chase, he's big, but he's only like 6'1",
He plays bigger than he is though.
But I would say Tyler Boyd, he's still going to get his, but I would be worried about T. Higgins' touchdowns going down because Jamar Chase. But I actually do have an offer in my inbox right now for Jamar Chase. I'm not a fan of it, so I think I'm going to decline it. But I'm trading away CeeDee Lamb, and I'm getting Jamar Chase and Pat Freiermuth. I'm not a big Pat Freiermuth.
Nah. And
it is 2 PPR for tight ends, but I'm not a big fan of his upside. I guess I like CeeDee Lamb's upside over Chase's upside.
Yeah, I mean we've seen CeeDee Lamb be good in the NFL already, and while I have a lot of confidence in Jamar Chase, we still haven't seen it quite yet. So I'd rather just take the known thing in CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee Lamb is also very young at the same time too. And has Dak Prescott for years to come. Where Joe Burrow, what about his knee? There's still a little more questions with Jamar Chase. So, Bill, anything you want to mention? What are your thoughts between Boyd and Higgins? Who was hurt the most with the pick?
I think Tyler Boyd gets hurt most by the pick. I feel like the slot wide receiver kind of loses value when they're not producing off of their volume. And I think more volume is going to go towards Chase. I think you can get T. Higgins at a pretty cheap price tag. I feel like a lot of people are kind of out on T. Higgins because they see Chase, and Higgins kind of played that alpha role. But I think there'll be enough targets to go around in that Bengals offense. Just in general, I feel like that's going to be a very high-scoring team this year. One of the things that I'm looking at, though, is how do I value Jamar Chase season-long wise, wide receiver-wise, and Trey hit the nail in the coffin. I have him ranked right behind CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, just because I feel like I I feel like him being drafted at 5 just spoke to the volume of how lackluster talented this draft class was at the wide receiver position. Just think about CeeDee Lamb. He didn't get drafted top 5 last year.
He was
But
17.
I would say that CeeDee Lamb is arguably a better prospect than Jamar Chase, or I should say might have a better fantasy value than Jamar Chase. I wouldn't say prospect wise, but I mean, I love Jamar Chase. I'm not going to ding him up too much, but when it comes to redraft, I feel like he's another guy that might just go slightly overdrafted. You know how the redraft rookie hype train comes in like August for the people that don't do dynasty leagues and stuff like that. They only do redraft leagues. I can feel like Jamar Chase is going to get drafted so high.
I feel that, dude. See, I have to talk about this now, even though we are running short on time. I feel like T. Higgins' dynasty value was the one that was hit the most, though. Because
why, though?
When you had T. Higgins last year, he wasn't like setting the world on fire, but he looked really good and he was consistently producing. So you had the aspirations that he could be an alpha wide receiver in the future. He could grow into being a consistent dynasty top 5 wide receiver. And now that's gone because Jamar Chase steps in, and Jamar Chase, yes, they're both very young and all this, but Chase has the draft capital. Chase has the production from college. Chase has the connection with Joe Burrow and all this. I really feel like Chase, like I mentioned earlier, we all kind of feel the same way that Chase is stepping in as the clear one. That potential is now gone from T. Higgins. And another thing, too, for the Tyler Boyd aspect of it, he's still going to play the slot. And I feel like do you remember a few years ago when Tyler Boyd and AJ Green was actually good? AJ Green was on the field. When AJ Green was on the field, Tyler Boyd would consistently perform better than he would when AJ Green wasn't on the field. And that's because when you're playing the slot, all you really have to do is find those open zones in the middle of the field. And he can do that very easily when you have Jamar Chase on one side, T. Higgins on another. You let Tyler Boyd run open in the middle of the field, and I don't think that Joe Burrow is just going to stay away from him because Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are better. I think that he's going to find Tyler Boyd open more often. Maybe he does lose volume, but I think his efficiency is going to go up. I think it's going to be pretty consistent. And because of that, I think Tyler Boyd, his value drops, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't drop enough to where I think he's the bigger loser than T. Higgins, where T. Higgins had that upside to become a great fantasy option for years to come, and now his ceiling is severely capped, if that makes sense.
My argument against that is, do you think Joe Burrow is going to score touchdowns?
As in throwing or rushing?
Throwing. I mean, obviously, he'll get a couple of rushing touchdowns, but I'm just saying, like, if you're chasing Burrow's touchdowns, then I think Higgins might be the number 1 target for touchdowns. Like, and if we're playing the Joe Burrow's going to score touchdown games and the Bengals are going to play overs, give me Joe Burrow, but he's going to be too expensive. Give me T. Higgins at a cheap price tag, and give me Joe Mixon at a cheap price tag. I think wheels up for, like, I think you should chase the touchdowns in these type of offenses, like them and the Chargers, and I think there's value within chasing the touchdowns over just the production, because I feel like it's going to be hard to tell when the Bengals are going to be in a shitty game script, when they're going to be chipping and dunking, and that's how Tyler Boyd kind of really got his fancy value last year. And then Andy Dalton just has a low ADOT just worth of targets, so that's the reason why he benefited with Andy Dalton. But I just feel like overall, man, you're getting T. Higgins at a crazy value right now.
Interesting. Look, I think we'll have more debates about this in the future, and I am excited. I know it's going to happen. Really quick to round us out here, I'm going to head to Trey first. Give me your favorite pick of the first round for fantasy purposes that we have not already talked about.
My Las Vegas Raiders picking leather. I'm just kidding. That's the worst pick. I can't even believe that. But no, I'm going with Devonta Smith. I'm sure Billy would have covered that if he was still an Eagles fan. But I'm going with Devonta Smith. I just think that he's going to get the targets. He's going to be able to get the production. I drafted him over Waddle. I think Waddle might be better long term, but if we're talking about this season, they have Fuller there. So I think Fuller and Waddle are really similar. So I'm not quite for sure how they're going to figure that out. So I like Devonta Smith as a flex play weekly, and I think he'll be able to be in your lineup every week and not have to worry about him putting up those duds.
It's funny because Billy actually is not big on Devonta Smith, so I feel like he's not a fan of that. Bill, do you have a favorite pick that you want to throw out there for fantasy purposes?
Can I give you like my favorite round of the draft in general? Just a couple guys.
Sure.
My favorite round of the draft for Dynasty was the third round. Just people don't watch the beginning of day 2. I don't know the reason why, but just crazy ADP values in Dynasty drafts right now. I'll name off 3 guys. Josh Palmer was my biggest mover up my rankings. He got drafted to the Chargers in the third round. 6'2", 210 prospect out of Tennessee who got drafted to the Chargers. He's going to fit just nice with Justin Herbert, and I think he has the chance to be fantasy relevant. And I just feel like people just aren't talking about Josh Palmer. He was my biggest mover at the wide receiver position, my biggest mover at the tight end position. I think Chris alluded to this last week. I don't want to sound like a homer either, but Tommy Tremble, tight end out of Notre Dame that got drafted to Carolina. I think that was a really good fantasy signing for them. I think he has a chance to be fantasy relevant. And the last guy that I'll talk about is Trey McKitty, 6'5", 245 out of Georgia. He got drafted in the third round also as well to the Los Angeles Chargers. Almost said San Diego Chargers for a quick second. But those are my 3 guys that I'm really targeting that got drafted in the third round. I know you asked about the first round, but I feel like if they made it this far in the podcast, you might want to get some.
Yeah, they are some gems too. Because
dude, Josh Palmer is the sleeper, man.
No, they're all of them are available later in rookie drafts too. So there are some depth pieces that you can get. So I'm very glad that you touched on them as well, Billy. And I feel like we can't go without mentioning Chicago trading up to get to 11 and getting Justin Fields. Like Chicago has just been decimated by travesty at the quarterback position for decades. Jay Cutler was supposed to be the one and never became great. I don't even know how many. I'm not too big into Chicago as a team, but from what I can understand, that's the story of their entire franchise, and they're one of the first franchises in the NFL. So, man, because I mentioned this previously, not only for fantasy purposes, but I think we all kind of agreed too that we felt like Justin Fields was the second best quarterback, period. So for him to go at 11 was crazy enough because he was passed on by different teams that arguably could have had a need at quarterback, like Carolina or Denver at 8 and 9. But Justin Fields falling to 11, Chicago, who seemed like they had settled on Andy Dalton and were satisfied with that. Then they move up for Justin Fields, who looks like a great prospect and offers a lot of hope to Chicago fans. So I vibe with that pick. I think it's a dub for Chicago because at the very least, it gives you some hope because we all know that Andy Dalton was not inspiring hope in that Chicago team. All right. I know we didn't cover as much as I would have liked to. Basically just the 5 picks, didn't talk too much about Jalen Waddle and everything. But if you're really interested in our opinions on it, feel free to message us on Twitter, Billy at Getting Bills. Anything you got going on, Billy, with your DFS Pub Sports Radio stuff?
Check out Pub Sports Radio. We're going up right now, I feel like, in the YouTube numbers and stuff like that. You can follow us over on Twitter also as well. We usually put out best bets for MLB UFC and stuff like that. So it's a pretty easy follow. Got a shout out to the people that paid the bills. And secondly, if you're looking for an NBA play tonight, we are taking the Blazers money line minus 102. They won 8 out of their last 9 games. We're going to fade the Utah Jazz. They have Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley out. I should have actually placed a bet earlier this morning because the Blazers really plus 4.5. A little bit of line movement going towards the Blazer, and I agree with it. I think they win the game outright. I'm betting them minus 102 on FanDuel Sportsbook.
As a Lakers fan, I hate it. I need them to lose, but I just hammered the Blazers minus 105 money line. So we'll see.
It's a good line, man. Considering how hot the Blazers have been, I'm shocked they weren't opened up as favorites today. I
thought you were more disappointed that was a money line bet, Trey.
No, it's okay. Sometimes you got to be safe than sorry.
At FF Superflex Guru on Twitter, anything you got going on, buddy?
No, just been chilling. School's ended. Just been going to work. Just started umpiring. Been tossing parents out of the field. Just kidding. I haven't done that yet, but I've been wanting to. There's some moms checking me, and I gave her the glare, turned around and glared at her. She didn't say a single word the rest of the game. I was like, yeah, that's right. Struck her kid out next time he came up, just because. But no, it's been pretty chill on my front. Just been going through a bunch of rookie drafts. Got one starting here soon on our listener league.
Oh yeah,
that I'm pretty
Fantasy Forecast Listener League, and you can follow me at Fantasy Force FB and the show at Dynasty Force Podcast. At Dynasty Force Pod, YouTube Dynasty Force Podcast, and yeah, I think that that wraps us up here. We will be back with you again next Wednesday, May 19th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And hope you all enjoy this next week. Enjoy your rookie drafts if they are not done yet. Enjoy your dynasty trading sessions. And just enjoy this schedule release that is coming out later tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you all have a great week, and we will see you next time.